Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has made a big claim about illegal migration. He recently said that February saw the lowest number of people trying to enter the United States illegally in the entire history. He wrote on his social media platform, Truth Social, that in February, his first full month in the office, only 8,326 people were caught trying to cross the US-Mexico border illegally. According to him, this is the lowest number ever recorded. He also said that all these people were either deported back or they are facing criminal charges in the US. Trump also compared these numbers to the situation under Joe Biden's presidency. He said that when Biden was in power, about 3 lakh people crossed the border illegally in a single month. Trump has now declared that the US-Mexico border is completely closed for illegal migration. Adding to this, he also warned that anybody caught trying to enter illegally will face strict punishment and be immediately deported. To strengthen security at the border, the Pentagon, that's US Defense Department, is sending about 3,000 more soldiers to patrol the entire area. This is part of Trump's effort to fulfill his election promise of stopping illegal migration. Also, there's a new rule. Undocumented migrants must register or they must face punishment. You heard it right. The US government has introduced a new rule for undocumented migrants. It is now mandatory for all the illegal migrants aged 14 and above to register themselves within the government. If they fail to do so, they could face heavy fines, imprisonment, or even both. The Department of Homeland Security has said that all undocumented migrants must provide their fingerprint and current address. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services will soon release the full details on how people can register. But many people are asking, what does this mean for Indians in the US? This new rule is specifically very important for Indian migrants living illegally in US. The US government has identified about 8,000 Indian nationals who entered the country illegally and they could now face deportation. In fact, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has responded to this situation. In February, during his visit to Washington, he said that India will take back its nationals living in the US illegally. He also promised that Indian government would crack down on human traffickers who mislead people with false promises of jobs and opportunities in the US. Modi also acknowledged that many of these migrants come from middle class or lower middle class families in India. They are often tricked by agents and illegal travel networks who convince them to pay lakhs of money to go to the US, promising them jobs and better future. Many migrants take huge loans or even sell their entire property and lands only to find themselves struggling once they reach to the US. But also, there is a lot of confusion about exact number of illegal Indian migrants in the US because of different reports that give different figures. The Pew Research Center and the Center of Migration Studies of New York estimates that there are about 7 lakh undocumented Indian migrants as of 2022. This would make Indians the third largest group of illegal migrants in the US after Mexico and El Salvador. On the other hand, the Migration Policy Institute gives a lower number, estimating about 3,75,000 undocumented Indians in the US. This places India fifth on that particular list of countries with most illegal migrants. The US Department of Homeland Security, however, claims that the number is much lower, only 220,000 undocumented Indians in 2022. Now, these differences show how difficult it is to know the real number of undocumented Indians in the US. However, one thing is clear. Indians make up a small portion of total illegal migrant population in the US. So far, the US government has already deported 335 Indian nationals and more deportations are expected very soon. Every year, thousands of Indians dream of moving to the US in search of better jobs, higher salaries, and better future. However, getting a legal visa is very difficult. The waiting period for a US work visa or a green card can be several years. Many people lose patience and fall into trap of illegal migrant agents who fake promise them to enter in the US illegally. These agents charge about 15 to 40 lakh rupees to arrange travel through illegal routes. In fact, some send migrants to Mexico, Canada, or South American countries from where they attempt to cross into the US illegally. Many face danger along the way, including arrest, harsh weather, and even death sometimes. Currently, there have been several cases of Indian migrants losing their lives while trying to enter the US illegally. In fact, if you remember, then in January 2022, an entire Gujarati family of 4, including a baby, froze to death while trying to cross into the US through Canada. In December 2023, 2 Indian students drowned in a river while attempting to enter the US illegally from Mexico. Many Indian migrants are also being detained in the US immigration centers waiting for deportation or asylum hearing. So, if you or somebody you know is considering migrating to the US, it is very important to do it legally. In the end, Trump's new immigration policies are making it harder than ever for undocumented migrants to stay in the US. With tighter border security, mass deportations, and new registration rule, Indians living illegally in the US could face serious consequences if they do not follow the rules. For those still in India dreaming of going to the US, again I will say, it is very important to think twice before trusting illegal agents. The risks are very high and the consequences can be life-changing. Instead of taking dangerous and uncertain routes, it is always better to follow the legal process and avoid getting caught in a trap.